I was 16, barefoot on cold tile, standing before 50 people who seemed twice that number in spirit. The old ceiling fan wheezed above us, spinning dust that caught in the halo of the fluorescent lights. My grandmother Florentia perched upright in the front pew of our local church community hall, her lips pressed together so hard the blood had gone from them. Behind her, my cousins, the Prado twins, elbowed each other and grinned. Father Mateo rattled off parish announcements from the pulpit, searching for a note in his binder with slow, deliberate fingers. The crowd slouched in folding chairs, some fanned themselves with printouts, others clucked gossip. I could smell Tamil dough and hairspray. Abuela had summoned all the Solis family and as many neighbors as possible. Everyone whispered. When my name was called, the air became heavier. Diego Solis, said Father Mateo. He said it as if the sound of it tired him. I stepped forward, fingers trembling, sweat collecting behind my ears. The scratch of my heels on the tile made a dissonant, embarrassing rhythm. Outside the city world, a street vendor's bell, a car's growl, but in there all that world was reduced to eyes and lowered brows. The mic was thrust into my hands, a cord trailing. My voice was supposed to be strong. I had practiced for an hour in the bathroom mirror behind a locked door. I want to be a dancer, I managed, steady but not as loud as I wanted. For a moment there was nothing, a cough from the back, then it hit, laughter. Not the gentle, surprised laughter of delight. This was jagged, rolling noise. Tia Leticia pressed her fingers to her lips and snorted. My father, sprawled beside Abuela, narrowed his eyes and flicked an imaginary speck from his jeans. Dance, he said too loudly. You're not a Nina Mijo. The twins chorused, Myra, he wants to dance. Shall we buy him a tutu? A flush burned up my chest into my ears. I pressed on, they had to hear me. I've been practicing. I want to train, maybe even study contemporary. Raul, my uncle, interrupted. Contemporary? Bah, it's not real work, Diego. Maybe you want to join the telenovela girls too. The laughter now was vicious and confident. The looks from neighbors ran from pity to irritation. Abuela clucked her tongue. Father Mateo, a reluctant referee, tried to move things along. Very well, Diego. As we all know, families help children toward good paths. Perhaps a more traditional ambition is best. Mechanic, teacher, lawyer, dancing, well, we wish you luck in your interests. He smiled thinly. My mother's palm pressed my shoulder, brief as a dragonfly landing. I read love and powerlessness in her gaze. I wanted to scream, to show them even one step, but my knees locked. The moment fractured, part memory and part wound. They let me walk out. I waited for applause, for someone to shout my name. There was only the fan spinning on. After that, the word dancer became a joke. My brother snickered when he caught me practicing in our narrow hallway. The twins threw crumpled paper at me if I improvised in the backyard, which wasn't often after that night. My father's disapproval was everywhere, a refusal to look at me, a grunt in place of real conversation. Every movement felt exposed. At night I replayed my humiliation in the community hall, the jeers, the shame. Still I danced. I moved when nobody was looking, letting music in, beats pulsing from my phone's dying speaker, feet brushing brick in time, arms slicing air. Each rehearsal was secret. I started waking before dawn. The living room floor was smooth concrete, cold underfoot. I tiptoed past the kitchen to practice pliés, leaps and spirals. My mother sometimes watched from the doorway, mug in hand, her eyes bright with unshed tears. She said nothing, but sometimes she hummed along to the music. School was no escape. My classmates, led by the twins, decided my new nickname was La Bailarina. At break, they'd dance exaggerations, hips thrown out, hips mocking my practice. I didn't let them see the sting, though each fake pirouette felt like a slap. There were glimmers of kindness. Mariana, the art student, sometimes left pictures of dancers in my locker, but mostly I kept my head down. When I finally saved enough for a single lesson at a small studio on the edge of Roma, it was like stepping onto another planet. The instructor watched me move for a minute, then nodded. You have fire, she said, but the world will try to put it out. I went when I could, sweeping floors in exchange for classes. I learned to ignore the snickers of cousins when I left in leggings, the icy silence at dinners. At home, praise was reserved for my brother's soccer wins, my cousin's biology medals. I was the family embarrassment no one spoke of, the hope they assumed would burn up. The dream, though my body moving, weightless, carving emotion in the air, stayed alive. I left for Veracruz 3 weeks after finishing high school. I didn't say goodbye, not really. I cleaned out my room, left my brothers a scribbled note, do something big but do it only if you love it, and took the overnight bus. My dance teacher texted me a list of studios, places that might take me as an apprentice if I worked for free. Money was tight. I lived with 4 strangers in a cramped apartment, traded late-night tamales for studio time, slept on a mattress on the floor. Veracruz was sweat and salt days that stretched long under sun. The city was alive with musicians, street artists, and a resilience I'd never felt at home. I cycled through jobs: waiter, street cleaner, front desk assistant at a hostel. The rhythms of the street bled into me: the cumbia drums, the shuffle of bare feet, laughter tumbling from cantinas at midnight. I auditioned everywhere. Sometimes I made it to round 2, mostly I didn't. Each rejection carved another notch into my chest, but each no made me stubborn. I rehearsed harder, tried new forms: contemporary, ballet, folklorico. I watched from a doorway once as a man older than my father spun on the tips of his ragged boots to a crowd that just kept growing. He danced with everything he was, sweat flinging off, shirt clinging. Nobody cared about his name, only the way he made space bend. That night I danced until my feet blistered, alone under the sodium glow of the street lamps. I sent my family money when I could, miserable little bits, but enough to show I wasn't starving. My mother wrote, "Are you happy, Diego?" It was the closest she would ever come to saying, "I am proud." I told her the truth. I was tired, lost, and strangely happier than ever. After 2 years, things changed. I auditioned for a touring company, Contempo Reyes de la Ciudad. They needed bodies for the back row, energy in the corners. I made it. My name was fourth from the bottom on a cast list tacked to a sweating window. When I called Ma, I didn't mention the jeers, the hunger, the loneliness. I just told her, now I dance every night for crowds who come to see me. By 23, I danced everywhere: festivals, forgotten towns, television specials, smoky back rooms. Sometimes we rehearsed under bridges or borrowed arches in swanky Polanco mansions, the tile floor sticky with spilled mezcal. Praises began circulating. Critics noticed the fire in my leap, the torque of my body slicing the stage. My company let me start choreography. I carved stories from rhythms, our dances embroidered memory, longing, defiance. In one piece, I caught the eyes of a shy girl in the front row. Later, she joined the studio saying, "You made me think I could try." I felt something like hope then, new and electric. With every premiere, the hole from that community hall shrank. I told myself someday I would go back, not just as Diego the dancer, but as someone who made it proof alive before their eyes. 8 years, it was 2 days before Dia de Muertos when I finally returned, the sky the purple blue of dusk. I'd been invited, not summoned, by the community leader Doña Teresa, who had hunted me down through social media. She wrote, "We're reopening the cultural hall with music and food. We hear you have made something of yourself." I stared at my phone, heart flickering. I hadn't set foot in that neighborhood in so many seasons, but my dancer's body ached for closure, for the arc to smooth from pain to pride. I said yes. The night I got off the bus, the street was lined with marigolds, yellow as fire. Their perfume thickened the air. Children in calavera masks dashed between stoops. The old hall looked mostly the same: flaking paint, sagging wood, but buzzing bright with lanterns and chatter. My parents stood near the entrance, Ma in a new dress, my father looking impossibly older, hair streaked grey. I swallowed hard. As I stepped inside, a hush fell, one that stretched and snapped at the edges. The twins were there, now broader about the shoulders but the same eyes. Tia Leticia, unchanged, pursed her lips and watched from a corner. It could have been a dream. Everyone pressed close, watching, whispering. My pulse drummed in my hands. Doña Teresa cleared her throat. "We are lucky to welcome our own Diego Solis," she said. "You may have seen him on television or read about him. Tonight he returns from the stages of Cordoba, Puebla, all across Mexico. He has brought something to show us." A small stage had been cleared. Speakers wobbled on a makeshift table. I plugged in my phone. I stared at my family, at the neighbors who once laughed at me, at those who had believed and those who hadn't. Their faces all blurred together, curious, hopeful, afraid. I pressed play. The music filled the hall, a wild, tangled melody surging with old roots and new pulse. I stepped onto the stage and the noise vanished. I was alone and yet carrying all of them. My body remembered every rejection, every ache. I moved with the steel I'd built, threading sorrow through a leap, tenderness held in a trembling hand. I spun, arms open, slicing memory and shame. I channeled the morning light in Veracruz, the hunger of long nights, the comfort of dance as survival. Every betrayal, every mocking glance passed through my limbs, transformed, released. When the music ended, there was complete silence, so total the city itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the applause broke, astonished, unself-conscious. My father was on his feet. He wasn't clapping, not at first, just staring with something alive in his face. The twins were gaping, their hands half raised. Abuela smiled, her mouth softening. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Otra vez," and the demand rippled through the hall. Doña Teresa caught my hand, raising it like a victorious boxer. The feeling wasn't triumph but relief, tenderness for the child I'd been, for these people, for myself. My mother pushed through the crowd and hugged me. Against my ear, she whispered, "You were right to go, I just didn't know how to help you leave." My father stepped closer, arms awkward at his sides. "I didn't understand," he said, voice rough. "Seeing you now I see." He looked at me like he'd never seen me before. That night the mockers faded. The twins tried jokes, awkward and forced, but their eyes were wide with something new, wonder maybe, or guilt. Tia Leticia shook my hand stiffly, muttered about talent. The little kids tugged at my shirt, asking for lessons, imitating my steps. After the celebration, I walked out into the chill, the air tingling with smoke from the vigil candles and marigolds bursting gold everywhere. The city made a living pulse beneath my feet. I realized the wound from that old shame wasn't a scar, it was a seam holding together who I'd been and who I was. My family lingered at the corner, uncertain, hoping for a word, forgiveness, maybe even advice. I saw their awkwardness, their pride, and their regret. "You can come see the company in the city," I said. "You have an open invitation, all of you." They glanced at one another, surprised. "Really?" said my father. "Really?" I said. Under the streetlights we stood together, no one quite ready to leave. The city outside never noticed our little moment, but to me it was all the world. Years ago their laughter broke me, tonight their silence rebuilt me. I had left as La Bailarina, a punchline. I returned as Diego Solis, the proof that even stones can learn to dance if you teach them to listen.